March, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm with this really kind gentleman named Allyn Ehrlich, and we're hanging out in Trump's building on Park Avenue. That Allyn's been here for how many years?
Oh, since before Trump.
Before Trump.
Hi.
Hi, Alan. Nice to meet you. Ian Trottier.
Hey, you're in Montana?
I am, yes, sir.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Montana, it's, you're really in the country compared to New York.
Yes, I certainly am. I am surrounded by mountains. Just to my east is a park known as Glacier Park, and to my north is a ski resort known as, the locals call it Big Mountain. It's in the city of Whitefish. And I'm about 45 minutes, Alan, to the border with Canada.
So you're really up north. You're really far north.
I'm pretty far north. It's negative 17 at the moment. About a month ago, it was in the negative 30s. Oh, excuse me, it's not negative 17. It is 17 Fahrenheit. But, Alan, about a month ago, it was in the negative 30s.
Well, I'm happy we're in the 50s.
Yeah.
And I'm anxious for spring to come along.
You're anxious for spring, yeah. One of my favorite restaurants in New York, or bites to eat, is Katz's Deli. Katz's Delicatessen. I like to get the sandwiches there.
Yeah, that's like a dinner, pastrami and corned beef. Yeah.
Exactly.
They're downtown. We're uptown now. We're up we're up right by 60th Street.
You're up by 60.
I'm telling Allyn about your work. It's such the truth. And he mentioned that he has a nephew. So you have a family member that also kind of follows rabbit holes.
Yeah, I have a nephew. He lives in New City, not in the city. He lives up in New City, not New City, in Middletown, rather. It's Middletown.
How much of in your estimation, how much of his time is he wasting on these rabbit holes?
So life.
Oh, look at so.
But he's originally from Louisiana. He moved up here about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So he's when he comes to the Christmas parties, he sits in his corner and, he talks. No, he doesn't believe anything with the government. He's anti-government and everything. He's totally everything, He believes the government's out to kill him,
Well, I think a lot of people feel that way these days.
Yeah.
Because of the virus that we had, the COVID,
well, I don't believe that at all, but that's beside the point.
Alan, I started, March is talking about a podcast that I started 7 years ago down in Miami. And there was a virus down there called the Zika virus. A good friend of mine named David Granoff, who was a PR specialist there in New York, asked me to get involved in looking at the local debate at the time. David is originally from Brooklyn, and he was a gay Jew. He's my best friend, and he's passed away since. But the reason I mention this is because I know that March has said that you have a history with Trump and his family. David was so good at what he did that he used to tell me before he passed away in 2020. He used to tell me, he says, Ian, Donald Trump approached me twice, 2 separate times, for representation for his PR talents and skills. Anna Nicole Smith was one of David's clients at one point, and he says, Ian, I don't mind Donald Trump so much, but I had to reject him. So my understanding is that Donald had approached David twice for representation, PR representation, and David both times rejected him. But speaking of New York, one of David's high school era friends was a guy that joined a band as a drummer, and I met Marky Ramone at the Soho Beach Club in Miami, one of David's friends. But that's how I kind of started the podcast and started doing the interviews. Allyn was because of indirectly because of this guy named David Granoff. So I like to give my history in that regards. I love New York. I think it's a great city.
New York is a great city, but I mean, I don't know what you're doing in 17 degrees.
Well, I managed to get by, yeah.
You spent time in Florida, so I mean, that'll kill the mosquitoes when you're in 17 degrees.
There are not many mosquitoes up here, yeah.
Well, I'm here with Allyn at address 502 Park Avenue. That is a Trump building now, but Allyn's been here, like I said, for 50 years. When it was, did the Executors own this building?
Well, I go before that, but it was the Delmonico Hotel, and then Trump bought it in 2002.
In 2002. Now, I was working with Frank Williams, the architect of 515 Park Avenue.
I watched that being built, yeah.
And that was built by your former friends.
Will and Arthur. Will and Arthur Zeckendorf. They shared the floor.
They shared the floor with Allyn. So I'm saying the history, Allyn has a history that is almost integral with the top developers of New York. You know, so the building across the street is what in 2001 when it was built was the most expensive real estate.
One of the best, the newest buildings, the most expensive.
Now the cost per square foot, I think at that time was $1,100 a square foot in 2001. But the cost per square foot in New York City now is approaching $5,000 a square foot.
Is that true? I don't know.
You don't know? Yeah, I think that new building that is putting up on 56th Street. You know that one?
55th.
Well, I think it's 55th Street.
54th, 55th. That's the Kushner building.
That's a Kushner building?
Yeah.
Park is there going for $200 million. That's what I heard yesterday.
No,
right behind Carnegie Hall, like just out.
Oh, no, that's a different building.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah. But no.
Yeah, they're going for $200 million there.
Well, there are. The penthouse in the Steinway building is $200 million.
That crazy building?
Yeah.
$200 million?
And they have to be careful because when the wind's blowing, it moves.
That's crazy.
Like a boat. Yeah.
I mean, the slenderness ratio is like 1 to 40 something. I forgot.
Yeah. The walls are put thick. Hold it steady.
That is very quick. Hey, Ian, your microphone is actually really weird. Can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine, yeah.
I hear a lot of static over here. So anyway, I wanted to kind of get into a discussion about.
Well, you're a carpenter. We have a mill workshop here in the city.
You've got a workshop there?
Yeah, we have a mill workshop. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to take a look at it sometime.
Wait, do you get to New York?
Every so often, I get to New York. I used to frequent when I was in Miami. I'd frequent. I was working with a guy, Cohen, that would go to New York often. I'm familiar with Carnegie Hall and Central Park a little bit, so I'm familiar with your city somewhat.
Well, Miami's closer to New York than Montana.
Yeah, yeah. I like New York a lot. I like going into the various nooks and crannies that New York has to offer. Allyn, I lived in San Francisco as well I never lived in New York, but I lived in San Francisco, apart from Montana, for about 8 years, and love that city as well. San Francisco is a great city.
Yeah, but it's a popular city. Also expensive.
Both are very expensive. Yeah, both are very expensive. San Francisco's got incredible views. That's what I like about that city is there's the cable cars going up the hills, and then at the top of the hills and down the hills there's views of the bay and the islands in the bay.
I did some building in San Francisco and in L.A. years ago. I had a customer here in New York that we did a store for, and he opened up a chain of stores, and he took us to L.A. to Rodeo Drive, which I built a store, and one in San Francisco. Yes.
What building What building in San Francisco, Allyn?
It was right at the square at the beginning. What's it called? I think it was called. I'm going back a number of years.
Union Square.
Union Square, right off Union Square.
There's actually a
jewelry stuff. It was a jewelry chain, and we did the. He made phony jewelry. In other words, he did these phony stones, and side, and it was called by Zero, the operation.
There's a. Are you familiar with the Bechtel Corporation?
Of course, Bechtel, everyone's familiar.
Anyway, so there's speaking of architecture in San Francisco. There's a great Frank Lloyd Wright building right off of Union Square as well. Maiden Lane, I think it is. It's on Maiden Lane. But a friend of mine used to do. I had a small valet parking business, Allyn, and I sold the name of the parking business to Imperial Parking, and now in New York City, there are garages with the name of the company that I started called iPark. And one of my iPark, again, I sold the name to Imperial Parking. Billy Lerner's the guy that owns that company. So the garages in New York that he used to run are now converted to iPark garages. But when I used to run that small iPark business in San Francisco, one of my clients was in Piedmont, California, and her husband was a VP, I think it was, for Bechtel. That's how I got familiar with the name Bechtel, and he was also, I believe, a member of the Bohemian Grove. If you're familiar with that organization.
No, not at all.
Well, hey, Ian, if you could just kind of divert the conversation away from that for a moment, I'd just like to talk about where we are and the work that Allyn has done for Trump. This is the 502 park, and you did the lobby of the building?
Yeah, I designed the building. Yeah.
You designed it?
Yeah.
And you have a funny story about the gold on the ceiling.
Yeah.
And can you tell that story? It's a hilarious story, Ian. You love this.
Okay.
But, he came. He was in the office here. And he said, "Come downstairs." Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know what that was. Some sort of an alarm.
Hello. Still here.
Is that March's phone?
Yes, Allyn.
Okay. Anyway, so he says to me, "Come down and
This is Trump.
come down and take a look what I'm doing to the ceiling." So he says to me, "There's a guy on the ladder. He's testing some antique gold on the ceiling." And I said to him, for a couple of pennies more, you get real gold, and not that stuff that's going to darken on you. That metal foil. So he says, "What are you talking about? I use more gold than anyone else in the world. I know better than anyone else. No one uses more gold than me. And this is the best stuff you can buy." And then he turns around to the guy on the scaffold. He says, "What is that stuff you're putting on there?" He says, "Metal foil." Well, he turns around to me and he says, "Oh, good enough. That's it." And he walks away. The next day he called me up. He says, "Allyn, would you take care of the ceiling?"
And the name of that person was who?
It's a funny story because they did it at the plaza. When he owned the plaza, there's a horse outside. The man on the horse.
Of course. It's a Sherman horse.
That's right. Sherman. Yeah. So what they did is they made it with metal. They did it with metal foil, and it was really, when it was done, it would knock your eyes out. It was so shiny. And 2 years later, it was black.
Oh, it's black.
It turned black. So he knows the difference. He knows the difference.
Oh, see that? So when did you meet Trump?
Oh, I know. Years. He was friends of mine for years.
Do you remember where you met?
Oh, yes. I remember where I met him. I did Tiffany's office when Tiffany sold. When Hoving sold Tiffany. And he was building the Trump Tower. He was building the Trump Tower. Back that far.
Wow.
And he had an office across the street in the building. And I moved Tiffany to the same floor as him in another area of the building. And the Hovings and what was the name? Mary Ellen or something like that. Hoving. She liked her office. We did her office. And Trump was just moving in there because he was building Trump Tower. So she said, "I'm going to introduce you to Trump because he needs someone to work in his place, doing the interior."
What year was this?
Oh, I couldn't even venture to guess. how old is Trump Tower? It's when they started Trump Tower.
That's the 80s, right?
Oh, it had to be in the 80s.
When did he buy the land for Trump Tower?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't remember the dates.
You remember what was there before? Trump Tower was a fantastic building, though.
Yeah. No, I bet. Well, I mean, for its day, it was
Right, for its day.
Today
Right.
it's not, but for
No,
its day.
the Atrium space, you couldn't get away with that. I mean, you don't need the code permit. You need to build that.
Yeah.
That's thousand in there. There's a creative zoning problem there.
But I mean, that was when he was building it. I'm going back. I'm in this construction business for almost 50 years. So I mean, you're talking about a long time.
Now, you would go to polo matches with Trump because you just like.
No, I was a polo player, but I used to go to the tennis matches with him.
Oh, really?
He always had a box. He always had a box at the tennis open. You know, at.
Did you know Ivanka or?
Yeah, Ivanka used to go there.
And you know Marla too.
I met Marla at Trump Tower.
Oh, really?
She was really a gorgeous woman.
Really?
Yeah. That's where I met Marla at Trump Tower.
Trump Tower was inaugurated in 1983.
Yeah. Well, it was inaugurated, so this may have been started probably in 80 or could have been 79. 79 or 80.
And Allyn, had you met Donald's father? How close did you had you ever met his father?
No, I've never met his father, and I'll tell you something. I was up at the office all the time. You know, we used to speak almost every day, and I never met Weisselberg. You know, like the guy that's the controller or anything else. But I knew everyone else in the organization. I think.
Does Weisselberg live here too?
No, he lives. Long Island.
Long Island.
And politically speaking, Trump voted as a Democrat. Isn't that right, Allyn?
Well, not only the funny part of it is that Don Jr. and Ivanka could not vote in the Republican primary because they were not registered Republicans.
Wow.
That's funny. So, why do you think there's so much hatred towards Trump?
Why? His personality, his attitude.
What kind of attitude is this?
Oh, yeah, he can be obnoxious, you know that.
Oh.
And he makes fun of different people. I always had fun with him because I thought he was funny, but it wasn't vicious, it wasn't on TV, it wasn't anything else. But he was the same way he is now, but we would laugh a lot. But when he's doing it politically, it's not so fun.
Yeah.
He hurts people's feelings, right?
Well, the game is how fast can you smear the other guy? You know what I mean? And I mean, it's a dirty world, this politics. But it's become a little bit nastier now with the way you see how they're persecuting him. It's just pretty obnoxious. You know,
he persecutes a lot of people.
Okay, so he says mean things about
everyone.
About, let's say, Schiff's neck. Okay, the Schiff guy. Now, look. Can you look at that guy and say that all his marbles are there? Really?
I think so. He's a smart man.
He has an agenda to hurt others.
He's a smart lawyer. No, Schiff is a smart lawyer.
I mean, doesn't he? Is San Francisco one of his districts?
Yeah, he's a California guy.
Okay, so what's going on with California? Why is that? Why is everyone moving to Tennessee out of California?
Oh, California. Everyone's moving out of New York, moving out of California because of taxes. That's the whole reason.
Okay.
Expenses.
Okay, so the taxes. So, I mean, you think the taxes are fair on small business because you're a small business man?
No, I don't think taxes are fair. I don't think any kind of tax is fair. I mean, you're talking about paying a 9% sales tax, almost 9% here in the city. I mean, on everything you buy, that's 10% of your income on everything you're living on.
Tell me that. And then the cost of living is higher. I mean, you know that. So, I mean, anyway.
Is it fair? No, but that's how it is.
I mean, so Trump would say he's not really that crazy conservative. He's really a moderate.
He's not a conservative.
He's definitely not.
It's not at all a conservative.
He had to be conservative. And do you think the policies that he's proposing are going to hurt?
Is it an act? Yeah, is it an act? Allyn, is it, you know Trump for a few decades. Do you think this is an act?
Oh, no question about it. No question about it. I mean, look, anyone that was born and bred in New York he's changed his attitudes completely just to get the evangelical and the conservative vote. There's no question about it.
Is that offensive to you that he would say that he would call himself a Christian and that he would?
He is a Christian. Why would I feel that?
It doesn't offend you. But I'm just saying, is it offensive to you that he would, I would say, brand his brand himself as a Christian to achieve evangelical.
Look, he's a Christian. He's allowed to be a Christian, but he's a little bit. He's trying to be a little bit too conservative. That's all. That's all. I mean, in my opinion, I'm a liberal, so I mean, I don't.
But why is it that the liberals are okay with Letitia James and this, that crazy woman Carol Willis? I mean, $83 million because he likes women.
Fannie Willis.
Oh, Fannie Willis down in the.
Fannie Willis.
Now that's corrupting the legal system whether they're pursuing.
No, I think that they don't. Look, the telephone.
$355 million fine. I mean, you get parking.
That's not New York. That's New York. That's $355 million. That's not Atlanta.
George.
No, that's New York.
I went to the Fannie Willis case. I saw her. I saw Nathan Wade. I saw Fannie Willis.
Okay.
In the courtroom in Georgia. I made some drawings of them.
Yeah.
With my company called the CIA Society. This is basically a caricature portrait of people. So I'm having fun with this brand.
Well, you know how he called the Secretary of State about the election. So I mean, everyone knows that.
What's wrong with asking questions about?
He didn't ask questions.
He did. He said, "What can you give me some votes?" What he said.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
It's not legal.
Why is it illegal to ask? Is this a fair election or not? Why?
It's not legal.
What's not legal about asking about a fair election?
No, asking for votes.
He didn't ask for votes. He said, "Get me some of the votes." He's supposed to be a Republican.
This was after the vote.
I don't see this. He asked questions. He said,
No,
"Are you sure you counted the votes right?"
Well, that he can do. But he can't tell him to find votes.
He said, "Can you look for the votes that he has had?"
He said, "Find votes."
Find the votes.
It wasn't a crooked election. It was an honest election. As those people said so.
Allyn, 2 million people showed up in Washington, D.C. Yeah. I was one when Ian looked.
Well, you're part of the cult. You're part of the cult.
That's not part of the cult. It's part of just asking legitimate questions.
Yeah, but you're part of the cult. This is the after.
All right, let's talk about cults. What defines a cult? What is it?
This whole thing with this rigged election business. He's got.
Can we ask questions? Why are there patriots?
They can ask all questions.
The people that were in Washington were patriots.
Yes, they
2
were.
million.
They meant well because they believed everything he said.
Well, okay. Giuliani was on stage there and did a very good performance.
Everyone believed everything that Giuliani said and what Trump said.
Right. So there was no violence. People didn't make with. They didn't bring guns. The only one that was taking place.
A lot of guns there.
They left it in the car. They left it in the car.
He left him in the street.
So that was not it was not an
They carried guns into the rally also, but that's beside the point.
Probably had a permits to the NLTs. I don't know. They weren't taking it to Capitol Hill. There were a lot of guns there. There were guns with the cops that were orchestrating the entrapment. That's what. Come on, Allyn. It was called entrapment.
No, he's the one that asked everyone to go there, so it wasn't entrapment. He asked everyone to go.
He asked them to go home, go peacefully.
When it was over, yes.
But when the peaceful announcement got cut off,
No, he said you had to fight like that.
He said you had to fight like hell, which is what we're doing here. It's cultural war, you know. So
I don't know if it's cultural war. Whatever the story is, there's going to be an election. You know, the people, they like an animated election. And they like an emotional election. And he's very emotional with the election. And Biden is very calm.
I'm sorry, wouldn't you be a little emotional if you had to pay $355 million fine for actually for no
That's
fix at all?
New Washington, that's New York.
Okay, why does he have to pay $500?
I never heard of that. I never heard of it. Look, I never heard of paying $130,000 for a hooker ride.
$130,000. I know. Because he's a celebrity, right? That's a lot, but you're right. But $355 million, well, there's no big deal. The banks are well paid. Banks want to continue doing business. That's called political persecution.
Well, it's not political persecution.
What did you call it?
When you claim you're worth $10 billion.
Now, okay, let's talk about the law, the justice. What is New York citizens getting out of this insane political,
money, that's all.
It's fascism. It's full-on fascism. Liberals are fascists. It's what happened in Germany.
Well, I don't know. I think that.
Why are liberals? You want to talk about a cult?
I think they're going to, the appeal, they're going to lower the amounts. There's no question about it.
They're going to lower, the appeal. Yeah. So he has to, why is he even going through this? It's called election.
Because the judge? No, it's not. What
else can you call it?
This is not
what did he do? Tell me. Are you not allowed to go to the bank and say, if you wanted to sell, you own this apartment here, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, would you go to the bank and say, for $25,000?
No, if I have 1,500 feet here, I can't go and say I have 4,500.
I don't think he did that.
He said he had what did he have? He had 33,000 feet is the fall.
Oh, that. Okay, with his apartment over here. No, okay, fine. But I'm just saying, the insanity that everyone is witnessing is not working for the liberal cult. It's become a cult.
It's not. There's no cult in the liberal side. Liberal side is just liberal people. But he's got
let's talk about liberal thinking. So you're saying that you're not allowed to question elections, right?
Sure you are.
Okay. So
you can question all you want.
Okay. So that's what 2 million patriots were doing on January 6th.
No, they weren't. They were
what
breaking
were they doing?
They were breaking.
Now, okay, let's say that.
Come on. You saw enough pictures. You saw enough pictures.
I saw a lot of pictures that were fabricated, and I saw a lot of pictures.
Oh, I don't think they were fabricated. Yeah, a lot of pictures that were. Yeah.
Look, I saw one of the most important pictures was a police vending, and I think they discovered his name was Mr. Bird, I think, shooting a patriot. You know,
I don't know.
When you shoot someone,
he thought he was protecting.
Usually, you shoot your policeman, you say, look, back off, otherwise I'm going to shoot you. That's what you usually say.
But they were telling him to back off. They were telling him to back off.
No, he didn't say that to them.
They all were telling him to back off.
Who?
Just as they were breaking into the window. This girl got shot while she was breaking into the window.
She was breaking in the window, but she wasn't anywhere near approaching him. He wasn't anywhere near.
He was the other side of the window. That's why he shot him.
Now, that was a horrible accident. He probably really was scared.
I'm positive.
Yeah, but that was the only murder that took place. But we heard there was all these murders and all this raging patriots.
Well, a lot of people died, but there were no murders other than that.
A lot of people unfortunately died from heart attacks.
Yeah,
that's right. It was a very unfortunate thing. Now, there was a pipe bomb that was planted.
That I heard about.
Very interesting story. Very good investigative work. Because we're not getting good reporting. Obviously, the Russian hoax was not true. Remember the Russian hoax for years and years? Remember that? Russian hoax every day for 5-6 years. Trump was colluding with Russia. He knows that's not true.
Remember Russia has something to do with X key score that this John Donovan of the FBI was speaking about.
Well, in other words, the only thing that we're trying to say, which is the truth, is Russia would like to see Trump as president.
No, they wouldn't. Russia likes Biden as president because
no, they were the ones that they were feeding, this whole thing. The guy that just got arrested, he was getting his information from the Russians, and that's why he was arrested. Okay, he was spreading lies, and he was getting his information from the Russians, and he admits it. That's all. He said he got it from Russian intelligence. That's it.
So Don Jr. worked here for his first.
He didn't work there, but Don Jr. hated his father.
Really?
His father was, well, it's logical. He didn't realize that until he told me. He was married to, Ivanka. Ivanka raised the kids. Then he left her for Marlon Maples.
Right.
And who raised the kids? They were little. Was his wife. And his wife didn't like that breakup. So when Don finished college, he came here right in his office, right from college. And his father, this was his first job with his father. This building, it was 2002. No, the whole building. He was part of the condo. So he spent most of his time, he didn't work for me, but he spent most of his time in his office. Because the building was being demolished.
I got you. You had the office. Yeah. I got you. That's so cool.
And that's why he told me that he hated his father like a passion when they got divorced.
I'm sure.
That's how it was. But that changed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, I mean, they're
by the way, he has to be a good family man. I've been in the office when he's talking to the kids and everything else. He was a good family. He would have movie night with the kids, and he would do things with the kids. He was a good family man. But his ex-wife hated him at the beginning. And who raised the kids but the ex-wife?
What was Eric like? Did you meet him?
I'm not friendly with Eric. Eric was younger.
Okay.
What about Tiffany?
You told me about going to.
I don't know Tiffany because she went to California. She went. Mom Maples was here, but then she went to California.
What about you said that you went to go with what's his wife's name?
Melania?
Melania. You said
she was the nicest woman. She is the nicest woman.
Yeah. And you would have a conversation with her at tennis matches, right?
We always talk, yeah.
But Trump was always about himself.
Well, his sister lives in the building, too.
His sister lives here?
Yeah.
In this building?
Yeah.
Wow. Are Jared and Ivanka still here, too?
Who?
Jared and Ivanka still here?
Yeah, they still have the apartment. They come up once a month.
Really?
Yeah, for a day or two. Yeah.
You ever see him?
Yeah.
You did?
She gives me a big kiss. Jared is a piece of shit because he's now so important he doesn't talk to anybody.
Really?
He's too important for himself.
One of the things that I found interesting, Allyn, and I think March, you may know this, is that when I was living in Miami in 2015, I'd gone to Doral because Trump was investigating a run at a candidacy for president. So he wasn't officially a president, and he said to the crowd, he said, if I run for president, I'll do so as an independent and self-financed. And that's one of the things that caught my interest in Donald Trump. I didn't know much about him. I mean, I knew he sold his ties and he built buildings, so some of these different things, and I knew he had his TV show. But that was one of the things that caught my interest personally, is because I had voted for Ross Perot. I think I was just in high school or right out of high school. I'd voted for Ross Perot because I felt America needed an independent thinker that wasn't really aligned to any super PAC or large money. So one of the things that I thought that dawned on me was a few months later he declared candidacy, but then he joined the GOP, and I remember listening and saying, "Hey, wait a second." He said if he ran for president, he'd be independent and self-financed. So my understanding, and this is kind of coinciding into what we said earlier about perhaps he's putting on an act or some of these policies that he's supporting or an act. You're a person that has known him for a few decades personally. Is it possible? Is it possible, in your view, knowing Donald Trump the person, Allyn, that there are people above him that are telling him what to do, and or he is compromised or subservient to some deal to the GOP?
I don't believe that. No, I think that he's his own thinker, and he knows what he has to do in order to beat the system. And he's beaten the system. That's how he became president, by beating the system. And he's a smart guy. He's one of the smartest men I ever met. I'm not talking about scholastically, but he's a real street smart guy.
Excellent to hear. Okay, so let me go into this. March, you can talk about this as well. One of the things that I like to talk about is regardless of administration, whether it's left or right, the country continues to spiral into this abysmal abyss with the dollar highly inflated and just racketing up this massive $34 trillion debt. What do you make of that, Allyn?
I don't think it means anything. Why don't we drill for oil? Yeah. Well, why don't we drill more oil now than we ever have? We're totally oil independent. No, we're not. Totally oil independent. Totally oil independent. Totally oil independent. We're the largest oil producer in the world. We're not producing it now. Why is that so expensive? We're the largest. Why is it so expensive? Because the cartel makes the price. Which cartel? Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. So oil, I looked this morning, oil was $77 a barrel. Okay, it's been up to 120 at one time. But it's 77. Today it's a little bit high, but it's been in the 70s. So we it's no longer, no, but we don't make the price. We don't make the price. That's done. OPEC. Is it the price in dollars? OPEC makes the price in dollars. Okay. So what OPEC, by the way, oil is traded in dollars. When the price of oil is not in dollars anymore, what's going to happen to the United States economy? Well, it's in dollars. Hey, but if it's not in dollars, you're fictitious already. But everything is just gold is in dollars, oil is in dollars. Everything, all the mineral rights are in dollars. Gold is also, if gold goes into another country. What's the largest economy? What's the largest economy? America. No, it's not. What is it? I think it's China right now. China's number two. It used to be Japan, but now it's America, China, and Japan. Okay. So, how many people live in America? 350 million, right? 330 or something. Now we got another 20 million that came in. That's George Washington Plunkett, right? George Washington Plunkett. No, never heard of it. You never heard of it? He was a New York story. Remember the Irish came here in 1915? Yeah. George Washington Plunkett was the height of the Tammany Hall. You remember Tammany Hall? Yeah. But you heard it. You probably won't remember. Yeah, but it's in my day, believe it. Yeah. No way. You heard of Tammany Hall? I mean, you weren't experienced with that. No, I was a kid. But yeah, it was a racket. Yeah. And it was a Democratic. Well, it was a New York politics. It was New York politics, which you could say that wasn't it a Democratic regime kind of in a way? No, it wasn't a Democratic regime. It was into itself. It didn't even pay attention to parties. They carved in, right? It was just into itself. Well, okay, but that's just that's the story, right? So Plunkett was one of those guys that explained the story, the whole Tammany Hall. Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, he would tell it to a shoe shot guy. The story was reported by the shoe shot guy, and I think Plunkett was the man that sort of exposed Tammany Hall in some ways. Oh no, it's not. Everybody knew everyone. So I think that's what the American public is seeing now. They see political persecution of Trump. They see. I don't see any political persecution of Trump. It'll be that fine will be brought down, I'm guessing. Okay. Although this judge wrote it, so it shouldn't be brought down, but it will. And the Fannie Willis will be dismissed because she's corrupt. I don't think she's corrupt. How much is the Fannie Willis worth? She makes $110,000 a year. Is that what she makes? I have no idea. Yeah, her salary is $110,000 a year. I have no idea. How much is she worth? I don't know. And I know she's worth at least $8 million. How much is Letitia James worth? I have no idea. She's worth $16 million. Oh, I don't believe that either. Where do these people get the money out? I don't. They don't have any money. They'd all retire. That's how much Letitia James worth. It's $16 million. Where did she get all that money? I can't believe she's worth that much. I can't believe she's worth $16 million. You're coming up with these figures. No, that's true. You know that's from. I'm telling you, I know that to be true. Well, the IRS should get it. For what?
because someone's giving it to her for her political campaign. Oh, I don't believe that. And she's politically campaigned on dead drunk. Yes, that's called political persecution. That's not legal. No, because she only got him on legality. Politically persecuted. She only got him on legality. What legality? They made up with a corrupt judge? I don't know. The judge, it's an old-time judge. He's an old-time corrupt. No, he's probably getting money too. No, he's an old-time judge. He's an old-time judge. These people are not. You know why he got the fine? You know why he got the fine? Because he was insulting the judge's people. You know, you got to be a nice guy sometimes. Sometimes you got to be a nice guy. If you're looking are lunatics. If you're looking to get away with something, what's he getting away with? There's no victim. I mean, it's the same. Broke the law. What? The law is corrupt. You can't see that? That's written in the books. It's an old law. Not a new law. And you don't go against the regime? It's all written up. You got to read the. Biden is an idiot puppet moron. It's not Biden. He can't even finish his sentence. It's nothing to do with Biden. This is New York State. It's a legal cult. It's a corrupt cult. These are old laws. These are liberal Jews mostly that are running the media, running the builders industry. That can't stand it. Not Jewish. Neither is New York State. We're talking Anthony Blinken. We're talking Victoria Nuland. We're talking about Muslim Brennan. That's what we're talking about. Running this whole damn corrupt scheme. Brennan is not Jewish. Neither are. He's a Muslim. He's a converted Muslim. He's a whack job. But I mean, it's not true. What's not true? It's not true. What's not true? If you break the law, you got to do the time. That's it. The law is corrupt. Fannie Willis is corrupt. She's paying her boyfriend, lying to the courts. She's going to get his bar. She never wanted the boyfriend to do it. She tried. Never wanted what? Two other people refused the job. She's laundering our tax dollars. No, I'm not in Georgia. I'm not in Georgia, so it's not. I went to the court hearing. I was in Georgia. But I'm not in Georgia, so it's not my tax dollars. My family is in Georgia. All the Chatters are in Atlanta. Pay tax? I pay tax. I was Georgia Tech. And I know, and I've never been to the courthouse, so I just wanted to go check it out. I happened to run in there with the New York Times. I had to be in there drawing the New York Times guy to became friends. And that newspaper also is just fake, total fake news. I mean, there's nothing that comes out of the Times that you can believe anymore at all. And Fannie Willis is extremely corrupt. I don't know her at all. Well, I mean, it's just insane. I'm not in Georgia. Well, I mean, last year you couldn't say these things. You couldn't say these. You could ask to leave restaurants in New York. This year, I'm seeing people they're kind of isolated and woken up. Well, we're all shocked. I mean, you're talking about the $355 million. That doesn't bother me as much as $130,000.
Allyn, do you see a difference in New York City with the open border policy that the current administration has?
Yeah.
What are some of the differences you see?
Same City Hall. There's really not that much difference. What do I believe? I believe that we should have open borders. I don't understand what is the logic of that? What is that logic? Someone's got to do the dirty work. You can't get people to do the dirty work. Because you're a contractor, I understand. Yeah. People are not the labor. I understand. We don't have any problem with people, hardworking people. Right. There's nothing like we have the space. You do have the space. Almost the whole world can be the big problem is they're all in New York and California. But the idea is, I think that we need meaningful labor. Allyn, they're not letting nice people in. Some of them are nice, some aren't. 100% right. But I mean, if I was a war-torn nation, full prison that had, but prisons were full. I mean, yeah, he had no good work. Send him along. Get rid of these problems. But whatever it is. Venezuelans are the worst. Well, that's a communist country. Yeah. I mean, that's a communist country. Okay, let's talk about communism. Do you have a problem with communism? No. I don't want to live in it. You don't want to live in it. All right, well, that's good. So I didn't know, because it seems that he and I were with a friend, Edith's a big, beautiful girl with blue eyes and red hair from Germany. Bavarian. And I was like,
Vicky.
I had a conversation with her. I was like, what is going on with Germany? Where are they headed next? And she said, Germany is on path to communism.
Oh, it's not true.
That's what she said, right, Ian?
Not true. Okay, it's her opinion.
Okay, let's talk about Canada. We met some Canadians. Their vote, what they say, doesn't matter anymore. They're censored. The bank accounts are raided by their prime minister. They can't get rid of the guy. And that is like full blown.
Why do they vote for him?
They don't vote for him. It's all rigged. It's like they say, right, Ian.
I don't know. I don't know if the Canadian voter system has been rigged. I am suspicious of the 2022 voting system. There's a book that I reference called "Vote Scam: Stealing of America." It was written about 15 years ago, and what it's done is it integrates technology such as IBM with mainstream media running through the Council on Foreign Relations. And these two brothers, the Collier brothers, they wrote this book out of Miami. They assert that the election for the U.S. president, that system itself has been rigged back to LBJ, and in so much, while they're basically appointed. Yeah, they're appointed, not necessarily voted, but they're appointed.
He was the vice president. He became president when Kennedy died.
Yeah, LBJ, right? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's something as well that strikes my curiosity. There's a woman, Allyn, named Maria Zack. And Maria Zack is an investigative researcher, basically, but she uncovered the satellite angle with the voting system of the 22 election. And she says the Leonardo satellite, which is Italian-owned, was running through a German processing center. So from the U.S., the votes got sent over to Germany, and it was manipulated by this Italian.
That's a lifestyle. They proved that that was Giuliani's to do with.
Yeah.
This guy from the thing, but it was all bullshit. They got the machines. I mean, they looked at the machines. They looked at everything. Those machines are real. They said it was a 10. It was a 10. You did right slam boom. Yeah. Take a pen in there, 30 seconds, you can change the vote. It's totally rigged. They were all automatic. There's all topic. By the way, Trump side, the Georgia, Arizona, he had that vote in Arizona. They were there for weeks and weeks and weeks. They came out and said that not only tried to get an honest hearing, there were more votes for Biden. No, right? Yeah, it's not honest. There's no way you can legitimately say Trump's people. Look, you get up every day you work, right? You go to work every day. You show up here in the office. You go to the job sites. You got carpentry, cleaning bonds. You work. Yeah. How can you be the president of the United States from a basement? You didn't campaign by anyone. There's no way the American people voted for that moron idiot that came in and finished 2 minutes. There was a vote against Trump. What is a vote against Trump? There was a vote against Trump. Why? Because of what persuaded people. COVID was part of it. Trump's attitude. As I remember, it was called the Russian hoax. Where did the Russian hoax come from? What Russian hoax? Don't you remember Pennsylvania ship screaming and trying to impeach Trump twice by the Russian hoax? You don't remember that? No. I mean, you don't remember that. Your memory is pretty damn good, Allyn. Yeah, I remember the first time you met Trump. You can remember the Russian hoax, please. You can't remember that? The Russian hoax was a lie created by Hillary Clinton, promoted by the Russian hoax was Trump's getting up and saying, Russia, if you can find the 3,000 or 30,000 emails, 33,000 emails. No, this is beyond France versus the Yankees. You're not processing the facts. The facts are I watched the Democrats I watched Trump when he met with Putin. Okay. And what was it? Finland, I think. Okay. And he sided with Putin over his own people. Allyn, did you see the Tucker Carlson Putin interview? No. I met Tucker Carlson today. No, sorry. Not in December. No. Tucker is a real guy. A real dude. Real person. He's a very honest person. I don't know about that.
Extremely hard.
He's a big.
Let me tell you how I know to be an honest person. Why would you call him a baby?
Because he is a baby.
Well, what is the definition of a baby?
He's an anti-everything.
He pursues
Super conservative.
Ian has a program called Recession Truth. The truth, sometimes you have to work to get at it. You know what I mean?
You always have to work.
But it's not always flattering to everyone, the truth. You know, an ugly girl, she doesn't want to hear the truth. You know what I mean? So
we're all going to hear the truth. There's nothing wrong with that.
I think everyone's pretty, and even the people that are the majority would think is unattractive. You can find beauty in everything. You know, so that's the truth.
One most beautiful thing my door.
Yeah, you got a Yorkie. It looks like you got a Yorkie. Very cute Yorkie.
Yeah, he's awesome dog. And so
this is my fun.
What's his name?
His name is Bentley.
Bentley.
Now, the one reason why I say Tucker Carlson is a truthful seeker is when I met him, he and I have a friend in common named John Meacham, and I went to high school with him. John Meacham ran Newsweek into the ground. Okay, he was an editor-in-chief. Yeah. And he was a guy that I knew, kind of a little runty guy with small hands in high school. And we became friends after World War II. We never met. He called me in New York a couple times and said, let's get lunch one day.
Yeah.
We never got lunch. Okay. He lived about 6 blocks from me on the Upper East Side. I met him one time at the 92nd Street Y when he was interviewing David Brooks.
And I think Tucker likes to fly fish in Montana.
Yeah, but let me finish the story about Tucker.
Fine.
And John Meacham, because I went to go meet John Meacham and with a book of his that he'd written that was a Pulitzer Prize winning book, I think about Franklin Winston. And he wrote it and he signed it, and then he said to me, where do you live? With that tone. This is my high school friend.
Yeah.
Where do you live? Like that. You know, let me repeat that. Where do you live? Like that. Like almost like an East Tennessee accent. So then I said, well, I live about 4 blocks from you, John, on the Upper East Side on East 74th between 2nd and 3rd. And you know what John said to me? You live over there. You know, not all Fifth Avenue, Madison. You live over there. That's John Meacham.
Yeah.
So, Tucker Carlson, when I met him, he goes, where do you live? Because I said New York, and I live in Chattanooga, and I told her Upper East Side. And I said, near John Meacham. And then you know what Tucker Carlson said? He goes, I know John Meacham. And I go, wow, yeah. And I go, we went to high school together. And then Tucker Carlson, you know what he said to me? You went to Macaulay, which is kind of famous. It's like an Exeter high school in the South. Well, John Meacham and I went together at the same level. We're all the same age, by the way, 54. So, and then you know what Tucker Carlson said to me? John Meacham is kind of an asshole. That's true, probably. Then I said, you got that right. You know what I mean? So that was cool.
You know something? I used to say that Donald Trump never lied. He never lied. I don't think he ever lied. One day he says to me, when I was doing this, he says to me, don't go to Bedminster with the architect. He sent me to Bedminster with the architect.
Wow, there's a club over there in New Jersey.
He said, I want you to build the clubhouse. I said, it's a little too far for me. He says to me, I'll give you free membership. I said, once that works, he says $350,000. I said, you just made that up. He said, you're right.
But you said one time you had to sue him to get paid.
This, yeah, from him.
Oh, it's the lobby of this building?
I never sued.
Oh, I mean, not sued.
Okay, what I did is...
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's not him.
It's Lee, right?
But I put a lien on the building. It's the last payment you got to win for. So he gives me a call like 2 months later. He said, Allyn, what is this? You put a lien on my building. I said, Donald, what is this? You didn't pay me. He laughed. He says, come over to the office tomorrow. I said, okay, I'll be over there tomorrow. 3 blocks from there. I walked over.
Do you think he'll be the next president?
He may be.
Do you think the people that are so corrupt hate so much? Wait, let's just think about this. Because when I was at CPAC, I was interviewed by a man from Scandinavia. He was a Scandinavian reporter. And you know what he said to me?
No.
Man, let me tell you what he said to me. He said, what are you going to do if they cheat again and Trump does not win this election?
Well, he's got that.
Let me just say, a lot of people around the world are predicting civil war. A lot of people around the world are predicting this. This was Scandinavia. This guy from Sweden, a reporter.
An individual guy from Scandinavia. That doesn't mean anything.
Well, he was questioning more than once. He said, what? I said, there ain't going to be there might be a revolution. There ain't going to be no fight because the liberals don't know how to fight. They only know how to cheat.
Well, they don't have guns. Well, let me ask this question. I want Allyn to respond to this because if we go back to the theatric angle, right? So I don't know if you want to. It might be the cult angle. Trump spent 4 years kind of talking about deep state and fake news, and those changed the social dynamics from coast to coast. There's no doubt about it. But is there any truth behind that, Allyn? In your view, what does he mean by deep state? What does that mean, and what does he mean by fake news?
Well, anyone that disagrees with him is fake news. Anyone, and deep state is because he didn't like the way things. There's bullshit in deep state. There's bullshit in fake news. There is some real news, and there is no real deep state. That's not true. You know something? He ran a company called the Trump Organization. The Trump Organization, he was king. Everything he said went as fact. There was never a question on anything he said. No one in the world could contradict him. And I was up in that office so often. I mean, he had, when you got off the elevator, you got into the reception area. The reception area, he used to use model agencies for receptionists. You walked into that office and had the prettiest girls you ever want to see. Tall, lanky, gorgeous girls. His office was right behind the next wall behind that. The amount of verbiage that came out of that office and the curse words and everything else that came out of that office, he was king. Anyone would contradict him, they were instant. You know what I mean? Then he came to be president of the United States. President of the United States, people don't listen to him the same way. You know, people don't react to him the same way as when he's the boss, in his own company. So then he created a deep state. And of course, if the news contradicted him, they were wrong too. So there's fake news and there's deep state. It's all bullshit. I mean, in real life, there's give and take, and there's a matter of opinion. And that's it. He doesn't believe in that. You know something? When I did, for example, this job over here, they gave me a 40-page contract. Okay? Now, I wasn't the general contractor of the building, but we were in this office here, right here. He was sitting in that couch over there. And he says to me, Allyn, you're going to do the lobby for me. So I said, okay. So he called the guys in. Because the work office.
It's a beautiful lobby, by the way. Really beautiful.
Because it was at the other end. He says, Allyn's going to do the lobby.
What's the wood up there?
It's mahogany.
Ash mahogany?
Yeah. Wow. So he says, Allyn's going to do the lobby. So a few days later, I get a 40-page contract. I start looking at it. I say, fuck this, I'm not going to sign this contract. And I put a void on every page. And I said, That's it. Send me a deposit, and I'll start work. Okay? They would never go back to him and tell him that Allyn would sign the contract because that would be contradicting. No one would ever go back. No one would ever contradict them.
Have you ever heard of the name Victoria Newland? You never heard of Victoria? Well, she lives over here next to Council on Foreign Relations on 69 or 68.
Yeah.
Not far from where we got the projects together.
Yeah.
You know, I forgot. We were in the town.
We did one on 67th Street together.
67th Street, yeah, in an apartment there. But that was a beautiful marble bathroom. Yeah. I remember the white marble. Allyn puts in down this white marble, and most of the apartments in this building, 502 Park had Allyn's footprint. And he puts down whole sheets of white marble, and mostly or bronx or whatever stone that clients prefer to use. That takes up the whole floor. There's no seams. It's really pretty detailed. But is that hard to do, by the way?
Yeah, it's much more. It's so much hard.
It's not hard to do. So, Victoria Newland is a woman that is the assistant secretary of Anthony Blinken. Anthony Blinken is the Secretary of Defense. Victoria Newland is known.
Secretary of State.
Huh?
Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Secretary of State. Victoria Newland was around Bush administration. You remember the gentleman that ran in New York City for a while? He was Robert Moses, right?
Of course.
And he was not the mayor.
No, he was the planner.
He was the city. Well, he was like a park planner.
He was the planner. Yeah.
He was a park department chairman.
No, he also did a lot of buildings. He did
everything. He built more than anybody in the planet. But he was deep state. That's what deep state is.
Okay.
He elected mayors, elected governors.
He was that's how many holes.
That's what Victoria Newland is with the CIA. Have you heard of the weapons of mass destruction?
I've heard of it.
Okay. She created that. Remember what it was called? When we went to war with Iraq. Yeah. Now that was Bush that went to war with Iraq. Yeah. Bush is deep state. Very famous. They have some conversations and say that the former director of the CIA, Bush Sr., had something to do with the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy or John F. Kennedy. Oh, that's a conspiracy, but it might be real. Who knows?
Anything could happen, but I don't.
Why don't we know the truth on who killed Kennedy? Both of them.
Well, we supposedly know, but
who was that? Who did that?
Oswald.
Well, here's March. You're talking about Kennedy and Allyn. You know, at the press club. That's when he said he wanted to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces. You know, perhaps the CIA is the deep state.
That's what we're talking about here.
No, I don't think so.
Well, then, okay. Didn't we run into a guy in Washington, John Donovan, that talked about a book that all public record he put together on Brennan, right?
Yeah. X-Key Score, Edward Snowden.
What's X-Key Score you talking about? What is it? What does it mean? I don't understand.
Well, X-Key Score is the NSA program that monitors traffic, and when the CIA is bringing in a hit or someone of importance, and they want them off the radar, they can deposit that data in an area of X-Key Score to keep that person off the grid. Now, John Donovan, as an FBI agent or analyst, a former analyst, because he was working with a private contractor at the time, somehow caught the attention of one of these FBI bombers being flown in with the CIA aware of it, and Brandon knew of it, and Brandon cashed in to the tune of something like $4 million because he owned shares in the company that was owning the software for the database that was being deposited in the X-Key Score with the NSA. That's the best of my understanding. So basically,
we don't need to go on and on about the details here. We just want to, like, more and more people in this nation are seeing that there's a deep state.
I'm not aware of it.
Let's just talk about why do we have no borders in our country, but we have to protect the Ukrainian borders? That's called deep state money laundering. And why are we doing that? I don't want another country to take over Ukraine. Okay, but why does Ukraine have so many biological weapon labs? Why? I didn't know that. Well, that's what Victoria Nuland told us not very long ago, that yes, we have built biological weapon labs. I never even knew they had the largest nuclear plant. I mean, I didn't even know that they had a subway. Yes. I never knew a lot of that stuff. Okay, I got to get some work done. Okay. All right, see you later.
Thank you very much, Allyn. Thank you.
All right, talk to you. Bye.